So I got back from the blacksmith shop today and I had a delivery. So let's check it out. So this is the Grizzly 2x42 knife making belt sander. The model is T32459Z. I don't know what that number means, but it must be good. All right, unboxing is going to be a little odd. We do not have our tripod here. It's up in the blacksmith shop. So we're just going to wing it. Pretty straightforward. All right, here in the top we have a thing. It looks like a tool rest, most likely. We also have a invoice and some wrenches. And that's it for the top plate. Inside we have a bag with the grinder in it. Let me go ahead and get this out of the box. We also have in the bottom of the box, looks like some instructions. And that's it. Let's go ahead and get all this Chinesian plastic off and take a look. So we got it unwrapped. There's also a 2x42 belt in here. That'll come in handy. Looks like it has a swivel thing that just locks up this way. A lot of people complain about this little adjuster wheel, saying it's kind of loose. I think we can just tighten these little things up a little bit with some channel locks, and that'll probably be okay. Looks like we have some more packing material, some kind of plastic around the motor, and the speed controller. Looks like it has bubble wrap. Both hands for this. Got the speed controller out of its plastic bag. It looks like it has 4 Allen screws on the bottom, and it gets attached to this plate. And that plate looks like it can slide in and out, so that's a good thing. We do have a couple wrenches of different styles and a couple Allen keys and the tool rest and a belt. So let's go ahead and get the speed controller mounted on there, see how that works out. First step is to loosen up these screws so we can slide this thing out to its maximum extent. And we'll pull all these Allen screws out of this. All right, so the speed controller gets screwed right on here. They give us these little Allen screws, but there are no washers or lock washers. And this thing is part of the spring-mounted or shock-mounted thing, and it's going to vibrate. So I'm going to add these little star washers to it. And those should help keep these screws from backing out. All right, we got a little star washer on there. We'll just screw these things in. And they did supply us with an Allen wrench that seems to fit. So we'll get of all those a nice little how's your father. And we shouldn't need them to be too tight. It does screw, it looks like, into an aluminum heat sink. So you don't want to strip those aluminum threads. And since we do have these lock washers on here, we shouldn't have to worry about it backing out. All right, one more. That looks pretty good. So that should be installed. Now it looks like we need to make a decision on how far in or out to mount this speed controller. I think I'm going to err on the side of as far in as we possibly can. I don't think it's going to interfere with anything. So let's get that thing retightened. And they did give us an Allen wrench for that. So let's get that on. They really buried this thing down in here, especially if you leave it in the kind of retracted spacing. The screw is way underneath there. You can reach it with the Allen wrench, but it is not consumer friendly at all. The next thing that looks like it needs to be connected is this little shock strut, and that adjusts the belt tension up and down. So let's get that organized. Now this has a little jam nut on it. So what we end up doing is screw the jam nut in a little bit. And then it's going to go right into that hole there. Let me see if I can do this with one hand. Probably not. Where are you at? All right. And then we'll just turn the barrel on the main thing here till it gets in pretty far. Pretty much we'll just come till it's even on the other side. And now we'll tighten the jam nut. Hopefully one of the wrenches they gave us will fit that. All right, so we have our jam nut tightened up. We rechecked the bottom one to see if it's tight. This little gas strut is pretty loose in here. I don't think it's going to come off, but it seems kind of strange that it would be that loose. But it does function okay, so that's good. Next thing is this little tensioner hinge thing here. It has a little bit of wobble in it. I mean, it's not horrible, but we're going to see if we can do something about it. Now, we won't be able to get to that middle lug, but we might be able to squeeze on this one just a touch. Maybe that'll help. Probably not. All right, so we squeezed these little hinges a little bit with some channel locks. Didn't help at all, but we're not going to worry about it. Next thing I want to do is take off these two guards. There's one here at the bottom and one here at the top. It looks like it's just one bolt to get those out of there. All right, we have these two guards disconnected. Won't be needing those parts. I started to look at the alignment. These pulleys are way over here. Those pulleys are way over there. I thought I had a problem, but it was just a shipping issue. You got to pull this thing out, turn it over, and put it back in, and then everything lines up. I'm sure the instructions would tell you that if you read those. The thing to test is the tool rest. It just slides in this little slot here. Goes in most of the way, and there's these little friction knobs, and the idea is you turn them a little bit, then you pull them out and twist them and tighten them more. This one hits the frame back here, and a lot of people just say cut the end of it off. I'm not going to worry about it. I'm going to leave it. I have these on my lathe, and you just have to understand how to adjust the things. They work okay. They usually won't give you any trouble. These, they did not give us an Allen wrench to check the tightness on these, but luckily I have this big old bucket of miscellaneous Allen wrenches, and I found the right size sitting there. So we're just going to go through and check the tightness on this. That one looks good. That one looks good. The tool rest one, oh, that one's loose, so we'll get some tightening on that. Yeah, if you don't tighten these things up, what happens is there's a spring in here and an Allen wrench and a little washer, and those things will just jump off of there. But what they're designed to do is you turn it like halfway, then you pull it out, rotate the handle, and that allows you to put the handles also wherever you want them, just to keep them out of the way. It's not a bad design. They all seem to work fine, except this one hits the frame over here. So we may cut it off in the future, but for right now, we're going to leave it. There's one more we want to check, but it has a screwdriver fitting instead of an Allen wrench. Let's grab a screwdriver. They didn't give us one of those either. It looks like it's a really big screwdriver head, but it has a number 2 Phillips insert, and it's tight, so that's good. The thing we need to do is put the belt on. The motor back here tells you the way the belt rotation is. So pretty much it's going to be grinding down into the table, which is good. You got to check the belt, make sure the arrow is pointing the right way, and just slide this thing on here. So I just slid the belt on, and it's really loose. Now, it's not a problem. I mean, the adjuster is all the way up, but what needs to happen is we loosen this thing and we bring this platinum frame out just a little bit. So we'll just loosen that a little, give this a nice tug. Obviously, now our tool rest is in the way. What I'm going to do is push the adjuster down to give me some slack in the belt and pull the platen out just a little bit and then lock it down. All right, that seems about right. We have a little bit more of adjustment on our adjuster wheel there. We'll go ahead and set our tool rest fairly close, but I don't want to grind a hole in it yet. And that's about it for the assembly. Everything looks pretty much the way it needs to go. The reason we bought this is we run our blacksmith shop on a generator, and we don't have a lot of power in the 2000 watt generator. So I'm hoping that with the speed controller, this will work fine. We should probably test that before we get too carried away. Before we test it on the generator, I want to go ahead and get the belt tracking correct. Let me get the belt kind of correct. And it does have a tracking knob here. It looks a little janky, but I guess we'll say it's okay. It looks like all we do is flip the power switch on here. It does have an electrical connector or a display that's telling us to go that way. So we're going to turn it up to number 1. And we're going to look at our tracking. We want the belt to stay in a little bit more. So we'll turn this thing in. Let's see if it tracks in. Seems like it's tracking in just fine. Let me go a little more. All right, we'll say that that's good enough right now. We'll speed it up just a little bit, see if the tracking holds true. Looks pretty good. And we're just going to tighten down this jam nut on the tracker. just a little bit. Let that run there for a second just to marvel in all the grinding abilities that this thing might be able to do. First thing I'm noticing is this platen is way too wide. You want to be able to grind your knife right up to the edge of the belt, and you can see it sticks out on this side a little bit, and it sticks out on this side a little bit. So that's not going to be good. All right, it's been idling here for a couple seconds. We're going to go ahead and raise the speed up. Looks like it goes in hundreds of RPM. So it looks like 3,800 RPM is the full speed. Seems pretty good. Let's do the generator test. So this motor says it's a 1 horsepower motor, 7.6 amps. Our generator will support 13 amps. Sometimes electric grinders take a lot of starting amperage and it'll trip the generator. So let's carry this thing out, try it out. All right, so luckily I still have the generator sitting in the back of the mini truck because we just got back from the blacksmith shop. So we went ahead and plugged the grinder in here. We threw it in the back of the mini truck, started up and give it a shot. All right, looks like we're green on the output here. Let's turn on, make sure the speed controller is all the way down, turn the power on there, and we'll put it on 1. Didn't bog down the generator at all. We have our eco throttle turned on. Got it running at a full 3,800 RPM. I think it'll work just fine. All right, that's a really good thing. Oh, we'll turn it off here too. And check. Generator test successful. All right, let's take it back in the shop. We have a few other things. It looks like this work desk table is set up to, I don't know, teeter-totter a little bit, which I can't imagine any reason I would be doing that. If anything, I would think we would want to cut a little notch in here. I would actually like to move this table that way, if that's possible. I'd also like to move it down. You know, we have a good 1 inch of usable area down here that we're not going to be able to use. So let's get that adjusted. I think the number one thing though is this platen needs to be cut off. We got to get this thing even with the belt, and we got to space it out on this side. It looks like if we push it over maybe about 2 washers and then cut this edge off, it'll be about perfect. All right, we're tightening up this little workbench, and it doesn't seem like it's parallel to the belt at all, but there's a couple different adjustments. We could either lock down the workbench, and it looks like there's a little bolt in here to swivel this thing. That's probably the best option. The other option is there's a set screw down here on the bottom of the workbench, but it looks like it's pretty parallel, so we're gonna go for the easier adjustment up here. So I'm tightening up all of these Allen screws on the workbench. There are no lock washers, and it looks like the base was welded on by maybe my grandson, and he's not a welder. But we're not going to worry about that too much right now, since we're probably going to have to make a new one of these anyway, because we want to get that thing down lower. Right now we're losing a whole, well, at least 1 inch of grinding space down here. I don't know why they would do that, but probably won't be using the workbench that much anyway, so it won't be an issue. All right, so a second ago we said that this wasn't straight like that, but this thing is adjustable. So just by releasing that screw there, we can tilt this thing all over the place. So that's good. Let's get it straight and locked down. That's a fairly easy adjustment right here. The bad thing is it's super easy to come undone. So got to keep an eye on that. Maybe get this handle out of the way so we don't hit it. Next thing that we want to do is take off this platen and see if we can clean that up a little bit. All right, so we're attaching this platen back on. We weren't able to move it over as far as I would like to. I was able to space this out by 1 washer, but the screws that they gave are not long enough to put anything else in there. You can see it isn't even coming close to going through the hole, so we'll have to pick up some longer screws. It helped mostly on this edge, and I think we could probably track the belt in just a little bit and make that problem go away. So we're going to go ahead and track it in and then mark this outside edge to cut. So it seems like to get this edge nice and flush, we have to track this belt in until it's just about touching the adjuster frame. Looks nice and square on the back edge. Doesn't look like it's going to hit anything on the motor end. It isn't right, but we're going to go with it. All right, now let's go ahead and get a measurement on this, and we're going to grind that off. I think I want to slide this stick-on thing they have over, though, because we have a little bit of a gap behind our belt on this side. All right, so I was able to pull this little plastic stick-on thing off, and we slid it over right to the edge, and it seemed to go back on okay-ish. Not all the glue worked okay, but now what we need to do is hit this with the grinder and get rid of all this edge. So let's get that done. Now I think the way to probably do this is just here on this flat bench grinder. We'll just slowly knock that edge down. All right, we have that mostly ground down. Got a nice straight line on it. That's pretty good. So let's get that reinstalled. We trimmed this down to the line, but it's still sticking out a little bit. This side is pretty flush all the way down. So we're gonna hit it back on the grinder one more time. Fix it now. We're gonna hate it every time we use it. Well, it's still not perfect, but we're gonna leave it here for a while, let the thing run. Looks like the bottom could be a little bit narrower. The top is pretty close, but some of that can be fixed with the tracking. So yeah, maybe we could take that washer out on one side to bring that in, or we'll just hit it with a flap wheel and dress it in the blacksmith shop. We should load it up and swap some equipment out. All right, we're all loaded up. We have our generator, our new Grizzly 2x42 grinder, and I'm also going to swap out the grinder I have up there. It's a 3/4 horse. This is a 1/2 horse. Easier for the generators to start. And all we use it for is sharpening drill bits and maybe putting an edge on an axe or something, but it'll be more than adequate. Well, we're back up at the blacksmith shop. First thing we need to do is get rid of this Harbor Freight vertical, I don't know, it's like a 2x28 or 2x20 or something like that. It has some problems with it. First of all, it's a 3/4 horse motor, and it's super hard to start on the generator. You almost have to pulse it, and it really doesn't start very well. The biggest issue, though, is the platen. So it has a platen that's pretty long. I mean, it's, well, not long, but big, but it sticks out on both edges, and you can't grind that away because that is structure to hold the top pulley up. So because of that, it's really horrible to grind knives on. It's good for shaping out the profile and stuff like that. It is nice to have a grinding wheel on the other side, but I find that I use this 1x30 Harbor Freight for doing all the sharpening and stuff on the knives because the platen is right behind the belt, which makes it super nice. Get this old grinder out of here, make some room, and bring the new stuff in. We cleaned up the corner a little bit. Amazing how dirty things get in just a couple months. We have our new grinder set up in the corner. Sounds like it's hitting somewhere. I think it's probably the tool rest. Gonna have to get that sorted out. Tracking looks okay-ish. We're right on the edge here. We still have that little bit sticking out on this side, but we could easily track that over to get the other side temporarily until we get it sorted out. So that's not bad. In fact, I think we'll leave it tracking somewhere in the middle. The news is the generator seems to start it just fine. We're currently at number 3 on the speed setting. We're going to crank that thing up. Let's go look at the generator. Generator is working pretty hard, but it's handling it just fine. Running away in the corner just fine. I also put a clamp here on the desk temporarily until I know exactly where I want to put this thing so it doesn't walk away on us. We have our 1x30 still installed here. It runs fine with the generator. We have our new grinder over here. It's the half, well, I don't know what it is. It's 60 hertz, 2.1 amps, but I don't know what horsepower the motor is. I would guess it's like a half horse. Generator bogs down pretty hard, but it starts okay. And once it gets up to speed, the generator calms down, so that's good. Then we still have our drill press in the corner here. It works really well. And it doesn't hardly pull anything. And then we have our trusty angle grinder in the corner there, and our little handheld belt sander up there. I think that's a successful test. We do need to grind something with this new grinder. We haven't tried it at all. Alright, but that's going to do it for the day. You guys get outside, do something fun, come back and tell me about it.